Welcome to the Relateable podcast, a safe space for open and honest conversations created for Black people.
This podcast explores how we relate to one another in our intimate connections, friendships, family, and everything in between. Hosted by 3 Caribbean women. I am Fiona, a single mom.
I'm Shaween, a very near empty nester.
And I'm Shantrelle, a free-spirited monogamist. Relatable, because a shared journey brings hope.
Welcome to the Relateable podcast. And this week, it's part 3 of our Pleasure Principle trilogy. So, ladies, how are we doing today? How have we been? What's been going on?
Well, in terms of my week, you know what? I have done some kick fucking ass research today, you know.
Jeez.
I have obliterated them motherfuckers today. Okay? I've kicked ass. I have uncovered some shit. Okay? You know when you find research and you proud of yourself? Well, today I'm fucking proud of myself because I'm a great fucking researcher and I'm good at what I fucking do. Okay?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
The language.
Oh, okay. So today, I would just like to say that I had an amazing time delving into our histories and I found some very encouraging and inspiring research. And I'd like to give myself a gentle pat on the shoulders.
I think you deserve more than a gentle tap on the back. I think you deserve a lot more than that.
Yeah, man. In a nutshell, today I found out that the number one complaint in terms of African spirituality in places like Guyana and Suriname, where there are like a lot of rivers and estuaries and, you know, there's a lot of water, is the number one complaint was that the enslaved kept doing ceremonies in homage to Mami Water. Oh, Mama Glow.
Really?
Yes.
I love us so much.
Yes. And I'm like, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. And it was like on this specific plantation, there were a lot of deaths happening because in the rainy season, the death toll was very high because of people began sick, right? But there was an unusual amount of deaths. And so they were calling on this Obia man to come and do this ceremony to Mami Wata because they only come to her when shit get real. Like they need her to come and heal and to solve this problem. And the way in which that story survived, and it's because they had so much access to water. A lot of plantations were right by rivers because there was just so much water. Guyana is the land of many waters, right? And Suriname too. So I just thought that was really beautiful. And I was very proud of myself for finding that out.
That's amazing. Mami Water. Anyway, we're not even going to touch on The Little Mermaid.
We will at some point.
Yeah, we will.
We definitely will.
I just find it so incredible. You know, this is going back so far and it's something that's still being done today, probably. So, well, yeah, amazing.
I had found this book like from 1893 about Grenada. And it's talking about how, you know, Grenada have this big lake, right? The Grande Tang, it is like a crater that's filled up with water. And this man was saying, oh yeah, all these Negroes are climbing up the mountain. And like there's all of these women dressed in deep red dresses and they're wearing red veils and you're carrying white flags and they're climbing this mountain and playing the drums and you're going to honor Mami Wata again. So it goes to show that we used to go to like the areas where there's big water and stuff, right? To do some honoring, some offerings, you know, singing, dancing, whatever ceremony to Mami Wata, not just in Guyana and Suriname, right? But also in like the smaller islands as well. But we don't do that anymore. You know, it's been managed to be erased. And now, you know, we're seeing like Mami Wata or Mama Glow as this kind of scary person, boy, don't go by the river because Mami Wata will do something bad or whatever. But I thought it was just beautiful because to me, 1893, that's not that long ago.
No.
But it's trying to dig up these things. I think that's so beautiful. So yes, that was my week. Okay. That was my week of
that was a summary. Very quick summary, but I know that the research and your connection to the research was far more expansive than a few minute synopsis, but we definitely feel it and we appreciate it, Fee. For real, for real. My week has been pretty interesting. I have been in Antigua since Wednesday. I'm still here. And I came to Antigua to attend the wedding of a very dear friend of mine. And so that took place on Saturday, and it was absolutely beautiful. It was so laid back, simple, just on the beach. We kicked off our shoes. And you know, when you see your friends happy, how that feels like you feel a part of that happiness because, you know, I've witnessed my girl kissing many a frog.
Yeah, boy.
Kissing many a frog, and to see her find her forever person and someone who cares for her so deeply and who has prioritized her. It was just beautiful. You know, Black love, man, Black love.
That's
So
right.
that's kind of been my vibe whilst I've been here in Antigua. I've also managed to connect with some of my friends here who I haven't seen in a very, very long time. So that has been wonderful. And you know, it's so funny that time really is a continuum and it is what you make it. I haven't seen one of my friends for almost 4 years. And the last time I saw her, her baby was in her tummy. And now she's 4 years old. And I'm like, what? Yes. But she came over to see me yesterday and she brought me gifts.
Wow.
She made a green juice for me, because I mentioned that I was on my period and I was having some severe cramps. She made a beautiful meal for me. I'm like, girl, she's like, I know what you need. And to top it all off, she brought me a candle.
Wow.
She said, I know you, Shan. I know what you need. And that in itself was just so beautiful to me. So Antigua, you're making me feel real nice. Shireen, how was your week?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm doing amazing. I can't complain. But before I start off, Chantal, I could hear those little birds in the background, and it just makes it sound so
It's
beautiful.
the parakeets.
Yes.
They are beautiful.
Sounds lovely, by the way.
Thank you.
But yes, my week has been very good. It's all about preparations and going back to work and starting to make connections and seeing how I could hit the ground running now. The holiday is over. So it's now time to start bringing in that money. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. It's been good. It's been good. It's been interesting meeting people, speaking to people, very optimistic. So my week's been very good.
That sounds like a good place to be. Now that we have caught up on what we've been up to over the last few days since we last connected with our amazing listeners, as Shireen said at the top of the show, this is the final part of our trilogy on sensuality, sexuality, and pleasure, which we have given the umbrella term, the pleasure principle. And so today we are going to be going down the rabbit hole of pleasure and pleasure activism. As per usual, I did my research. Actually, I've done my research a long time ago. I discovered or was introduced to the work and writing of Adrienne Maree Brown maybe 3 or 4 years ago by a very dear friend of mine, Dion Elizabeth. Big up, Dion. Dion is an amazing wellness practitioner, yoga therapist. She's just amazing. And she introduced me to Adrienne's work. And one of the first books that I've read of hers is actually called Pleasure Activism. And I was really intrigued by this. I was like, pleasure activism? What she mean? What's she talking about? So I'm actually going to give the definition of pleasure activism and how it really relates to our community. And when I say our community, I mean Black people, to make it clear. So
if people didn't know by now, I mean, okay.
Well, I just thought, in case we have any new listeners, it's good for them to have an idea of like, what's she talking about? Our community, Black people. So, according to Adrienne, pleasure activism is the work we do to reclaim our whole, happy, and satisfiable selves from the impacts, delusions, and limitations of oppression and or supremacy. So I'm going to go back to that again, right? Pleasure activism is the work we do to reclaim our whole, happy, and satisfiable selves from the impacts, delusions, and limitations of oppression and or supremacy. Pleasure activism asserts that we all need and deserve pleasure, and that our social structures must reflect this. In this moment, we must prioritize the pleasure of those most impacted by oppression. So marinate on that, my fine ladies.
Boy.
Let that sit with you. So I'm going to come back to this definition. But what I want to know from you both is, when you think of pleasure, what do you connect to? What feelings do you connect to when you think of pleasure? Shaween.
Yeah, I knew you'd come to me first.
Exactly, which is why I did.
You'll be surprised to know that pleasure for me comes from many different places, many different things. I have a confession. It used to be very, very difficult for me to accept pleasurable things. It used to be, I used to find it hard to know how to do things that brought me pleasure, that made me, made me happy. I didn't know. I don't know why. Maybe I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but I didn't really take time out to suss out what brought me pleasure, what made me reach that point of, I could say, wow, that was pleasurable, because I was never really interested, maybe. I don't know. But now I take pleasure from lots of things, and you'll be surprised to know it's the little things that bring me pleasure. It's the small things. It's stopping and admiring some beautiful flowers. It's going to a park, going for a walk, sitting under the moonlight and watching the stars. It's little things. It's things that's not costly. It's just little things that bring me pleasure. Of course, we have the sexual pleasure, but that's not what we're talking about. That's not what I'm talking about. It's all the other things around it. It's laughing with my kids.
Right.
It's sharing a joke with a friend, and I'm laughing so much I cough in, I'm ready to choke. It's these things I take pleasure from. Maybe going out to a spa or doing nice things for myself. Yes, but I don't know. I find pleasure in simple things. It's simple things for me.
I love that. Fiona, when you connect to the word pleasure, how does that feel for you? And what does pleasure look like for you?
I would say pleasure is a very personal thing. Okay, like, you know how Shaween says laughing with her kids? That's something that very much makes me happy. But I think when I think about pleasure, I think about doing something completely on my own terms that involves nobody. Right. So if it is, I guess, guilty pleasures, it's not even say guilty pleasures, but things that, okay, so for example, I know with my history thing, there are certain things that make me happy that I can't share with everyone. Little things that light me up, right? That I don't think not everyone will get, because it lights me up because I've been reading certain things and it's like a eureka moment. So you have to go through the passage of all of those things to have that eureka moment that makes me happy. So it's like a moment to myself. Or the fact that I really like very dark chocolates. I like chocolate that's almost bitter. And most people don't like that. So I will go and I'll buy that dark chocolate and eat all by myself. And I'll not tell anyone about it because I don't expect them to understand. Right? So it's those are the things that I keep for myself. Or even like sitting under a mango tree and just having a mango to yourself before you share all the rest of the mangoes with everyone else. It's those little moments of just me by myself. Of course, I agree with Shaween. It's like the little things, the spas, the sunsets, the flowers. But even just appreciating the flowers, is normally something people appreciate by themselves because they're walking past the flower and they pause and look at it and they have that moment with the flower. It's a very personal thing. That's how I see it.
Right. I love that. And it's really interesting, just picking up on something that you both shared, where Shaween said, sometimes she's found herself feeling almost bad for calling in pleasure into her life and engaging in things which bring her pleasure. And she was saying, I don't know where that comes from. And then something that you said, Fiona, where you feel like it's almost a guilty pleasure for you when you are having those eureka moments, when you're doing your history research. And I feel that it really ties back to something that Adrienne Maree said in terms of pleasure activism, right? And it says, we must prioritize the pleasure of those most impacted by oppression. And so the question that I want to ask, right, is how do you feel that our oppression as a community, the traumas that we have experienced, that our ancestors experienced, ties into almost this reluctance to fully allow ourselves to live a pleasurable life? How do you think that feeds into pleasure activism and why it's so integral that we almost all become pleasure activists for ourselves and then of course in turn for our wider communities?
Well, to be honest, Chantal, you could see how, for example, let's talk about sexual pleasure. Look at how our grandparents, great-grandparents, our ancestors, look at how they made, I think, sex in the Caribbean is still something that is taboo.
Yes.
It's still very much, you have to be a certain way. You cannot do this, you cannot do that. They will look at women in particular as, well, we call them jamettes or have all the worst names for them, whilst the men are coxmen and doing whatever they want and blah, blah, blah. You understand? It is still very much something that's taboo. Look at the movement, the LGBTQ movement in the Caribbean. It's very, very, I want to say slow. I'm not too shocked because I don't really engage to know what's going on, all the stuff that's going on. But still, we have countries where it is illegal.
Yes. And when you say it, you mean homosexuality.
Homosexuality is illegal.
Right.
These are definitely down to all the oppression, all of the, all the rules. It whittled down from that. Because look at how liberated, if you watch Europeans, if you watch Germans, if you watch Scandinavians, these people are liberated. These people know, Germans especially, when it comes down to sex and sexual pleasure, these people have it to a T, even the French. However, why is it that it's so taboo? If a woman says, I'm doing whatever I want for my life, I'm screwing who I want, you'll be labeled as this, you'll be labeled as that. If you dress a certain way, my God, I came down here and I love my sister to bits and I know why she's like that. I understand why. But if I dress a certain way, she'll be like, you'll end up on Lucian memes. They're going to be watching you. Watch people. I'm in my house, and she's wanting me to put blackout curtains. I don't want blackout curtains in my room. I want my curtains so that when I'm rising with the sun, I want to see it. I want light in my room. I don't want blackout curtains. Or people will be looking in through your... I'm saying, hey, if somebody wants to look through... It's just like very taboo and very conservative, but we're not flipping conservative at all.
Right.
You get me?
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell? What the hell? And even in pleasure, in pleasure, not just sexual pleasure, but people don't know how to relax.
Yes.
They don't know how to relax. They don't know how to take time for themselves. And that's what I meant when I said I felt bad sometimes. Right. But now I'm like, hey, girl, you're deserving. You are deserving. It's definitely, I think, has a lot to do with our ancestors and our past, the history, and it coming out of us. It's like it's ingrained.
Yeah. I mean, colonization after so-called emancipation just really, it really just continued the work of demonizing our traditional religions, demonizing our innate sexuality. So it's continued and it's passed down from generation to generation. So I absolutely understand what you mean. Even within you saying, blackout curtains. So denying yourself
The pleasure of light.
of the
Yes.
sunrise and the sunset and of light streaming into your space, saying to you, you can't wear that. Why can't you wear it? Why can't you wear it? Right? So, and again, wearing something that brings you pleasure, whether it's the color of the clothing or the cut of the clothing, denying yourself this pleasure, because we have been denied pleasure systemically and systematically. Yes. And so it's really for us to unlearn that and to advocate for our own pleasure. All right. So Fiona, I know you have things to say, being the resident historian amongst us. So what are your thoughts on oppression and how that relates, the generational trauma, the history of our oppression, the history of the oppression and demonization of our pleasure as a community? What are your thoughts on that? And how do you feel, I know that a shift is occurring because people are becoming more aware and more conscious of the impact of oppression on us as spiritual, living, and sexual beings. So what are your thoughts on that?
I was waiting for Showing to finish talking because I did not want to interrupt because I was ready to jump in at so many points that she brought up. But just everything that Shoween said, it is because colonialism and slavery, long story short. If she's speaking about how all these Europeans feel so liberated, it's because they did not go through slavery. They did not go through in terms of being told how to dress, how to wear your clothes, how to walk, how to talk, who to have sex with, when to have sex, then also to have Christianity forced down their throats. The modern white person has long been liberated from the obligations of Christianity a long, long time ago. Even if we say from, say, the 1960s when they had the sexual revolution, that wasn't really something that included Black people at all. And, the thing is, it's that if you look at, say, places like Jamaica that has the most amount of churches per square kilometer in the world, right? But it's also the most homophobic. That is not by coincidence. But then in the same breath, is also one of the number one places in the world per capita that downloads gay porn.
Yeah.
So there's, there's specific areas in Jamaica that have ranked the highest in the world. So it's all of this oppression, repression. And then in terms of that, we have been made to feel, I've been looking in the history books and things, they describe and say people as lazy. Yeah. Oh, they're lazy, they don't want to work. Hold on, you've enslaved me. And because I don't want to do your work, I'm lazy.
Indeed.
And even looking at how in Sanusha, how we describe someone as a negmawa. If you look disheveled, if you don't want to go to work, they call you a negmawa. But negmawa was the person who left the plantation, right? So we are describing those who resisted slavery as lazy, uncouth, and uneducated. How that making sense, right? But that's how deep colonialism has been ingrained into us, that we even feel guilty for doing pleasurable things like taking time out for ourselves, right? Yes. I mean,
it's a mind fuck.
Even as you said, one of the biggest mind fucks is I was reading this book from Suriname, and basically what happened was the enslaved people, they liberated themselves. They went to live in the bush and thing, right? So it's the Maroons. Then the Europeans were dying and they couldn't handle going in the bush. So they contracted some enslaved people to become the militia to go and chase after the Maroons to bring them back in, to re-enslave them. And there was this argument with the two groups in the middle of the night, and this man was writing about it. And the militia was saying, oh, you're lazy and you don't want to work for massa. What's wrong with you? Right? This was the mindset of some of our ancestors. Yeah. Right? That was passed down onto us. And so, in terms of how people think that the Caribbean is so sexually expressive, yes and no. Yes and no. I think maybe we're sexually expressive in our music and in some ways our dancing as a response to how oppressive our life has been growing up. Because in terms of your skirt can't be so short, the way people speak about each other in society, how men are championed to have multiple lovers and women are shamed.
When that is directly from what we were actually used to do. We were breeding horses almost,
Exactly.
The men were taken away to impregnate other women on other plantations, other enslaved women, and they were not allowed to form emotional bonds and emotional relationships. And so, of course, that behavior then continued, passed on. It's embedded in our DNA. So it's passed on from generation to generation. And it's a lot of work to undo that shit. But as a community, it is our responsibility to undo that shit. Exactly. And make sure that generations that come up after us do not have to suffer through the mindfuckery. And that, for me, is where pleasure activism comes in. It is about centering our pleasure, sexual, erotic, joy, happiness, all of these things, be it through music, art, advocacy, social work, all these things that bring us pleasure, that bring about change. And the key to change is to change our very own behaviors. It truly 100%. Is. Because I can't be talking about sensuality, sexuality, and pleasure on a podcast and then call it a day. And then once I turn off the mic, I revert back to not centering those things, because then I'm not doing the work. I'm just talking about doing the work. Yes. True. And doing the work isn't always easy. It's because we're undoing so much socialization where you're made to feel that pleasures are guilty. So then you have guilty pleasure. No, fuck it. If I want to have the chocolate, I'm going to have the chocolate and I'm going to sit with it. And it's going to be a full sensual experience. Exactly. And I'm going to allow myself to enjoy it, to fully enjoy my chocolate. Because why should I feel guilty for having my chocolate? Why should I feel guilty for actually, you know what? I'm going to go to the beach and I'm just going to sit and watch the ocean. And that is bringing me pleasure. Yeah. Right? And if I want to wear the stringiest of stringiest bikinis to do so, I shall do so, because I love the color of this bikini. I love how I feel in it. I don't really give a rat's ass how other people view me in the bikini. Right? So it's about unlearning that shame and not allowing the judgment of others to infiltrate on our own pleasure.
And I think that is, you hit the nail on the head. It's the shame. Yep. It is the shame that that's been brought down from generations to generation. And then we now have to stop it. We have to stop it with our kids. We have to speak to the children, let them enjoy things. If they're going to do something, do it and enjoy it. Pass that down to them rather than the shame, rather than the, oh, why you do this? You cannot do that. You cannot do and it's always about other people's opinions.
Always. And it has
always about other people's opinions. It's like we're living to serve other people or to watch other people, to what people think of us. Yes. Like, really?
What's the point?
Because that's what we were doing for centuries.
But it's this whole also being a servant to your master, but also being a servant to God and being this kind of pious, self-sacrificing. And then also added to it, I think also like Blackness is defined by trauma. Who's had it the most? Who's had it the worst? So in the terms of like, if someone is, so remember like how they used to clown Carlton? And then one time in Fresh Prince, and one time Carlton get vexed with Will and say, yo, just because I grew up in Beverly Hills or wherever it is, whatever, right? Or Bel-Air, that doesn't make me any less Black than you. So in terms of how we define our identity as if you lived the most ghetto life, had it the hardest, therefore that made you more Black, and therefore that gave you more street credibility, and therefore made your identity stronger. So coming from a place of privilege or enjoying nice life made you a weaker person. And then it's also this kind of struggle of like the Bible and we shall overcome and singing all of these hymns of struggling and overcoming. All of those things have been definers of our identities. So, even in the same way how we look and see all of these happy white people, okay, free white girls, that's not part of, that's not what we saw. That's not what we grew up in. Even looking at Hollywood movies, when we saw ourselves on screen, it was never in some joyous, happy, like, I'm watching Dred's watching some kind of tweeny film on Netflix. And it was just it was a bunch of tween white kids in high school, going through their high school problems, right?
Mm.
And all of us grew up seeing that, right? We never
Mhm.
saw Black people just going through their little tweeny, trivial high school problems. It was
Right.
trauma, gang shooting, boys in the hood, like real hard stories,
Yeah.
traumatic
Yeah.
stories,
Yeah.
Father's gone.
all of those
Single
things.
mothers.
There was
Mm.
no
That's
joy,
all no joy, no
Right.
joy,
no
no
joy.
pleasure.
There was no frivolous, happy Black movies.
Yeah.
You know,
No
this is a
frolicking.
new thing. It's a
Right.
new thing
Right.
now. And we love to stay in this perpetual state of struggle because it makes you a more endearing and respected person, the more struggle that you've been through.
Yeah,
Even
no.
in the terms of our music, when we talk about our, hip hop, we talk about our mothers.
Mm.
Oh, my mom, she held down 3 jobs, single mama.
Right.
You know what I'm
right.
saying?
Yeah.
Yo, your mother was tired. So what if there's never any stories of, yeah, my mom was a free spirit, carefree, skinny dipping under the moonlight in St. Vincent. Oh, my mama, she worked
Right.
jobs and she went to church every
Right.
Sunday and she was carrying the
Mm.
big things of green fig on her back. Like, there's no carefreeness. So how are we supposed to even align ourselves with small pleasures in life?
Right. So I'm going to ask you a question, Sherwin and Fiona. Actually, I'm going to read something to you first, which is delving into more of what pleasure activism actually is. And it states, pleasure activists seek to understand and learn from the politics and power dynamics inside of everything that makes us feel good. This includes sex and the erotic, drugs, fashion, humor, passion work, connection, reading, cooking, and or eating, hello Chantal, music, and other arts, and so much more. Pleasure activists believe that by tapping into the potential goodness in each of us, we can generate justice and liberation, growing a healing abundance where we have been socialized to believe that only scarcity exists. Miss Sherwin Gonzalez, how does this land with you?
It's exactly what I've been doing.
Mm.
I've deliberately been doing things on my terms. Sorry. I'm doing it on my terms. If I want to go out, if I want to eat this, of course, yes, I know I'm big. If I want to eat something, I will not stop myself from eating it just because I'm big. No, I'm sorry.
But can I ask a question?
Okay.
I'm going to ask you. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry to interrupt you, Sherwin.
Yeah.
But big according to who?
Exactly. Exactly.
Think about who set those standards.
Exactly.
Big according to who?
The same people who have been setting the standards for us for hundreds of years.
Thank you.
Men.
And then
Right.
one thing I've decided I'm not tolerating. I'm not going to tolerate it. Chantal, and I remember earlier in the season, you spoke about it when you went to Nevis and people were saying, oh, Shani put on weight and this and that. Kasa, I'm not accepting it either. Yes. I refuse to. And if anybody come and tell me, if a man say, oh, you're looking good, but the belly, you need to work on the belly, I say, fuck you. I love my belly.
Indeed.
If you don't like to see, don't fucking watch me. All right. And this is my stance. This is where I am. I'm not going to make myself feel miserable just to live up to what other people think is a standard. Fuck them. Okay. If I want to,
I love that.
I want, and I've been living my life in that way for a long time now. And when I explain that to people, when I came here and I said to people, Gasa, you see people's opinions, I really don't care. Everybody is just like assholes. Everybody have an asshole.
Right.
I don't need your opinion. You could keep that shit to yourself. Okay? And I really don't care about it. But this is how I've been living my life. I love it just so much. doing what makes me happy, doing what brings me pleasure. And I have to check myself every now and then when I'm doing something, I say, maybe I shouldn't be doing that. But then I say, but why shouldn't I be doing it?
Exactly.
Who says? Who says?
Exactly.
Who says?
Why shouldn't I be doing it?
The little white man on our shoulders who says.
Amen.
Exactly. Amen. And that's exactly what it is. I completely understand
Mhm.
what that definition. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And you know what? This series has awoken so many things. It just
Mhm.
it just solidified. It
Right.
solidified the way I was already and
Mm.
just brought it to the forefront for me. And like with the sensuality, the sexual. I
Eh,
love this series for that because pleasure is the same thing. This is
mm.
the way I am.
And I love that. The thing is, Sherwin, you hit the nail on the head, right? Because what you have been doing is learning from the politics
Mhm.
and power dynamics inside
Mhm.
of everything that makes you feel good. And you're like, actually, fuck that. I'm a big girl according to who? And so what? I'm going to eat this pie. I'm going to wear this
Exactly.
dress because I
Yep.
love how I look in it, right? I love how I look in this yellow dress. Remember the yellow dress?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that you were so reluctant to buy because you said to me, but Shani,
Girl.
right.
And you told me buy the damn dress. You said, Showing, you love the dress, buy the damn dress.
So, everyone, as you know, I am in Antigua, and right outside my bedroom window, there's a collection of parakeets, and the music that these birds have been producing have been so soothing to my soul. So I decided to record a little bit of their beautiful, majestic symphony just for you. Welcome to Under the Mango Tree from Antigua. All right. So, Fiona, how did those statements land with you?
Like Shawin was saying, this whole series has caused me to rethink and to be more aware about the things that make me happy and the definitions of sensuality, sexuality, and pleasure, and just how repressed we are. We do live in a state of constant lack, scarcity, depravity, and as if we are validated by having less, to say, oh, because we have to be in this perpetual state of suffering, to be these martyrs. Martyrs to who though? Like, to
Exactly.
to get a pat on the back and say, oh my God, she's so strong and she's so pious and she's so, I don't know, like dignified, as if within our community, doing things that make us happy equate to having no dignity, as if a dignified person is the one that has the least or who laughs softer. You know, these people who are very tight-lipped and wooden and stuff like that, they're not, they are associated with being dignified. Like, yeah, like that's being stush. Being stush is how our community calls someone who's very dignified, right? So if you're laughing loud, oh, you're acting with no dignity, right? Or if you go to enjoy the things that make you happy, if it's tapping into your sexuality or sensuality or the quote unquote guilty pleasures, those things are not seen as being dignified. And why? Why do we associate joy? Why do we associate dignity with lack and scarcity? Like I said, we have to be these martyrs. Martyrs to who though? Martyrs to who?
The good slaves didn't complain.
That's right.
The good slaves didn't rebel.
Exactly.
Right. There you go.
Right. There we go.
There you go.
There we go. But guess what? We are not good slaves.
Hey.
Okay. Okay.
I'm the worst of the worst there.
Right. We are not good slaves.
I ain't no slave to nobody. So
we are not good enslaved people.
Nope. Hell no.
We are not, and we have a lot of work to do, right? What's that famous line from the Bob Marley song? Emancipate yourself from mental slavery.
Thank you.
What no one but ourselves can free our minds, right?
Yeah.
We have to get free ourselves. And in that freeness, in that freedom, then the pleasure comes, right?
Chantal, that is when it came for me.
Okay.
And I can never stop saying this. The happiest day of my life was when I stopped giving a fuck.
Amen.
That was the happiest day. That was it. I remember that week, I pulled out about 20 or 30 memes of zero fucks to give.
I cannot.
And I posted them, zero fucks given.
Yeah, so there is a liberation.
It was
there
like a
is.
light bulb went out. Yes, it was. It was like a switch went on. It's like, so this is the life.
This is living. I'm embodying life.
Hello.
Showing that's how those happy white Europeans you described been living.
Yes.
They live in, but we have to learn. Our community has had to learn because for centuries, we were denied the basic right of being free.
Yes.
And being in our bodies and being sensual and sexual and pleasurable and spiritual beings.
Oh, my darling.
Been denied that for centuries. So it's a lot of work for us.
Don't forget, we're supposed to be seen and not heard, right?
Hey.
Exactly.
Okay, so even our laughter, as you said, Fiona, we have to laugh so that Matter can hear us.
Mm-hmm. That's why you say barrel of laughs come from,
We know what come in.
I need to confirm that, but it is rumored that the term barrel of laughs was, and say people used to put a barrel in the fields. This is in America when they wanted to laugh because you're not supposed to be heard laughing, right? That they go and laugh inside of the barrel to stifle it.
Wait.
That's
please find out if that is the case. Please find out if
so that's where they say barrel of laughs comes from. But yes, I will definitely confirm that.
Please confirm that. So ladies, I'm gonna go down and I'm gonna close off the definition because there's so much more to this. And I do recommend that everyone gets a copy of this book. If you're not following Adrienne Maree Brown on Instagram, I advise that you do so. She is a boss. Okay, she has changed my life, and I'm still working on some things because we are always going to be a work in progress. We are always going to be healing something. So let's not lose sight of that. Like reading this book is not going to magically wipe away everything that, is keeping you down or is triggering your anxiety or your generational traumas, and not going to be magically healed. But what this book will do is give you the tools to unpack so that you make space for full enjoyment of your life and the life of your community. It's about centering your pleasure and the pleasure of your community. So pleasure activism acts from an analysis that pleasure is a natural, safe, and liberated part of life.
Like that.
Hey, let's go again. What? Rewind. Yo.
Real talk.
Pleasure activism acts from an analysis that pleasure is a natural, safe, and liberated part of life, and that we can offer each other tools and education to make sure sex, desire, drugs, connection, and other pleasures are not life-threatening or harming, but life-enriching. Pleasure activism includes work and life lived in the realms of satisfaction, joy, and erotic aliveness that bring about social and political change. Ultimately, pleasure activism is us learning to make justice and liberation the most pleasurable experience we can have on this planet. So I'll read that again, the last part, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, pleasure activism is us learning to make justice and liberation the most pleasurable experience we can have on this planet. Okay? Listen.
boy.
Amen.
Adrienne,
I don't think y'all should have told me that.
Brown.
It seems there's a lot of things we should have never tell you.
I don't know why.
Y'all should have never tell me that.
We'll come back to
step
that.
it up 2.0.
We will definitely come back to that, Sherween, because I feel like you're definitely still missing some memos. But anyway, Pleasure Activism is the name of the book, okay? The politics of feeling good, because feeling good is actually political.
Yes.
Feeling good for our community is a political act. It is an act of revolution. It is an act of resistance. Pleasure, joy, rest are acts of resistance for the Black community. Let that sink in. Let that sit with you. Sit with that, listeners, and understand on this day that we are recording this episode is actually Mental Health Awareness Day, International Mental Health Awareness Day, right? And we are here speaking of joy, pleasure, happiness. It is our birthright. It is our freedom, our liberation. We have to center this more in our communities as a priority. Sit with it.
It's also for Columbus Day.
Please, I beg. Okay,
It's in America today, isn't it?
It's Indigenous Peoples Day.
Indigenous Peoples Day. Thank you very much. We do not call that name on this podcast.
Okay.
No, we don't.
Okay, no. So let's move on from that. Moving right along, because we don't belong in this here conversation.
In it.
Punks. You listening to the parakeets in the background?
Yeah.
So, ladies, I have really enjoyed this series with you guys. You know, like you said, it's a cause for a pause.
Yep.
And really make us reevaluate and do some self-inquiry, do a little bit of contemplation, see where we can make some tweaks. You know, Sherween will include the name of the book and the author in the show notes. Please, I beg, read the show notes, people. Read the damn show notes. We ain't able with Sherween. We're just not able. Thank you very much. But, you know, speaking of pleasure and joy and sensuality and feeling good, Nina Simone, we give thanks. What has been bringing you joy this week, Fiona?
What has been bringing me joy? Well, I am pleased to announce that I will be going to New Orleans for Beaucoup Hoodoo Festival with our homegirl, Shantrelle P. I am very honored to be part of the lineup. I am going to come hard because I have to come hard. I cannot come soft with the lineup of people, the caliber of people from Mama Coco. They're gonna have Jess Jumanji. They're going to be the Maroons from Suriname coming. There's gonna be some Paulo priestess. There's gonna be a voodoo priestess. There's gonna be some hoodoo, some Yoruba, some Orisha. It is all about our spirituality, African and indigenous spirituality, and they're gonna come hard. So I am also going to come hard.
We expect no less. So I'm not quite understanding even why you have to say that. Because it is the expectation that you will represent. Because no, permit me to finish. Thank you very much. I'm saying, yes, you have spoken about all these wonderful women folk who will be facilitating workshops at the Beaucoup Hoodoo Fest in New Orleans, as curated by one Shantrelle P. But you were called to facilitate this workshop because you are amongst the caliber of the women folk who will be holding space and also facilitating workshops. I just had to say that to make it clear.
Okay, I'll shut my ass now. Okay, yes.
Okay. Okay. Continue.
And Chantal, what brought you joy?
That just brought me immense joy, but no.
Clearly.
What brought me joy was love, Black love. You know, the reason that I'm in Antigua, as I said at the top of the show, is that my homegirl got married. She's married now. She has a husband. She's a wife. And like I said, I have witnessed her kissing many a frog, and she deserves this happiness. They deserve this beautiful entity that they are now building together. It was small and intimate. Let me tell y'all, right? They got married, right? The actual ceremony, and the sun, it was the golden hour, right? Mm-hmm. So, everybody just looked washed in gold. And any photo that was taken, people just look ethereal and just beautiful black skin. Okay. And then the post-ceremony cocktail, as that was being held, the sun was setting and the moon started to rise. Okay.
Did they plan the full moon?
Nope, they did not.
It just happened to fall.
It was just a few days before the full, so it was almost full, right? Let me tell y'all, magic and the water and the sound of the ocean. And I'm like, yo, I actually had to walk away, right? And just be in space with myself and give thanks for that moment. I just looked up at the stars, at the moon, allowed myself to hear the ocean, to feel the ocean spray on my skin, and give thanks. I may have even broken out into Coldplay. And that may have happened.
Wow.
Look at the stars. Look how they shine for you.
Yep.
And everything that you do. I mean,
that's words right there. That's bars.
That song, it was just perfect.
That soundtrack. Song guaranteed to make me cry. Don't play that song for me anywhere ever. It's curtains. Okay. Yes, I'll not cry smaller. You crying small and you just you can just wipe your eye and just turn your head a little bit.
Right. Big cry, snort and all.
Big cry.
When I was finishing A-level, my art teacher gave me a cassette tape and she was telling me how a great student I was. And I get that woman real hell. And she made this tape and then she recorded Yellow on a cassette tape.
Lord. For real?
That's one of the most beautiful things a teacher has ever done for me. Yeah, my art teacher. Yeah. Oh. And so that because it gave me that, I don't know, that someone I gave so much hell and so much thing to show me love in such a way, an unconditional way, as my teacher. And I mean the song in itself, just the lyrics, everything. Nah,
this
man,
song?
Don't play that song for me, please.
Don't worry.
This song right here, Fiona?
Girl, goodbye.
Okay. Yeah, so that definitely brought me joy. What about you, Shaween?
My joy, I don't know how some people will take it, but I took my daughter and my sister to a cabaret. So a cabaret is a bar, but that one is like a little sports bar. They have people playing pools and thing. And outside the bar, they had 2 cars blasting music, DJing. One's going, the other one going, and it's literally just by my house. So I was there with Haley, and the moon was not full; it was almost full. I was there with Haley, and I just wanted to cry. I wanted to cry because I was so happy to be passing on that tradition.
I love it.
Of cabaret life.
But I love it.
Of cabaret life to my daughter.
This is a real Caribbean experience. Okay.
Yes.
Swanky bars. No swanky bars.
No swanky bars,
right?
In a cabaret. We in a cabaret. And we sat outside and we drinking our little rum and coke. And I eat my pork and Haley eat her barbecue chicken. And, we just there cooling out, enjoying, and the music playing. And I'm saying to Haley, I miss this so much. I miss it. Pulling out outside in a little rum shop, just taking it all in and living my best life. I was so happy.
I love that.
I was so, so happy. And I say, Haley, this is it. It doesn't have to be no big, expensive drinks, cheap drinks. And we just cooling out.
Yes. That's life.
That was the life. So I passed on the baton to my child.
A very good baton to pass on. Very.
Cabaret life in St. Lucia.
A necessity. Okay. She
loved it. She enjoyed it.
It's a rite of passage.
The rite of passage.
But it is.
Haley don't drink. Haley don't drink. She don't drink alcohol like that. But she had a rum and coke with me. She said, "Mommy, I'm gonna have a rum and coke with
what?
you."
What? One sip, Haley. Okay.
One sip, Haley. But it was so fun. It was so much fun. So yeah, that's what brought me joy. Amongst other things, which we're not gonna go into, but that's what brought me joy this week.
Fiona, my girl.
Yes.
Fiona, you know when she says that, we all know exactly what she means. So she might as well just say what she means.
Hey, take it. I'm according to the 4 agreements, never make assumptions. So if they want to assume, then hey.
Don Miguel,
you know what? I don't see no wood. Okay, because the whole Shawina said nothing to expose us, nothing in the literal sense of exposing what she's been up to, but she's exposed it all.
Everything
in these past 3 episodes.
It's assumptions. It is assumptions.
We are breaking one of the 4 agreements. We are making assumptions, Fiona.
Yes.
Okay, and we are taking things personally also because she's not telling. So we are breaking 2 of the 4 agreements. Okay. But it's all good, Shaween. It's all good. We will respect you. Need to be coy. And, it's all good. And, one deserves and one is allowed to hold things to yourself and to hold beautiful moments to yourself in this culture of sharing, and oversharing.
Exactly.
Sometimes we got to hold back, right? And sink into those moments and just have it in your heart and in your head. You don't even have to take a photo, right? So it's cool. Right. We're going to respect that. Well, it's been, dare I say, a real pleasure. Having this conversation today on World Mental Health Day. When it goes out, of course, it won't be that day, but every day is a good day to take care of your mental health. Every day is a good day to prioritize your mental health. So we don't have to just focus on that for one day a year, right? As per usual, you can listen to us wherever you get your podcast fix. Please rate, review, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to come through, man. Come listen to Relateable. We got you. And we'll be back next week with more escapades and very special guests and special episodes. And we can't wait to share them all with you. And remember, as always, a shared journey
brings hope.
Bye, y'all.
Relatable, because a shared journey brings hope.